Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the honor and pleasure of having Kirk Nielson with Tap In Digital. Welcome, Kirk.
Thanks, Ken. It's great to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So the reason I brought Kirk in is the name of the company is Tap In Digital, but they don't do SEO. And what they do is try to help you with attribution. And when we're running the masterminds at Pilma, one of the things you have to do before you go to the mastermind meeting is fill out a sheet I have. One of the deals is attribution. Where did your cases come from? And it's really a struggle for a lot of them, to be honest with you, Kirk, because especially the ones that bigger budgets, that they're on billboards, they're on TV, they're on web, they're everywhere. And it's hard to pin it down sometimes. I mean, some of it's not as hard, but then again, you say, well, it came from the website, but they might have saw you on a billboard and went and looked you up. I don't know. I mean, here's what I do know. All the SEO companies tell me privately, if they go to do something and the lawyers tell me that if they are on TV, their SEO does better. They get more visitors when they go on TV. But anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So tell me about you and about your company. And then I want to get into the weeds on this stuff because this is interesting to me.
Yeah, let's do it. So my background, for the past 10 plus years, I've had technology background, data background, marketing operations background. And my most recent role prior to starting Tap In Digital, I was the CMO at credit.com, which is formerly Progression. So we helped people with their credit reports and helped people remove negative items and remove inaccuracies from their credit reports. So I ran the marketing team there for several years. And, we were spending a lot of money in advertising. It was an advertising business. It was a marketing business, very similar to personal injury. We had to create awareness. We had to continue to drive awareness because, as people get into credit repair, they don't stay in that forever, right? It's a temporary service. And so we were always having to fill the funnel and drive leads and drive performance that way. So we were always looking at, our marketing mix and what was working and what wasn't. And, over time, the complexity got pretty great, right? Because we were running offline advertising, so TV, radio, connected TV. Had a big affiliate partnership network that we worked through. We were doing all the digital stuff. So we were doing social, search, SEO, all of that. And, when you're making the decision of where to allocate those dollars, I wanted to have a data-driven approach to make those decisions. And so we had hired some, sophisticated data analytics and data science people, and we started solving these problems by using predictive analytics to understand what was working and what wasn't, and how to allocate our budgets and move budgets around over time. And ultimately, that's really where the idea for Tap In Digital came from, is we saw this as a critical problem and a complex problem for all brands that are doing advertising, and thought that we could really create a product that was going to be meaningful in solving this problem. And not only the product side and the data side and what we do from that, but ultimately our team is a team of operators and a team of people that have solved these problems and come across this and been kind of in the weeds figuring these things out. So we thought it was a pretty compelling business opportunity. And so that's why we put it together.
Well, lawyers are, and I'm one of them, so I can talk about it. We're very skeptical about stuff like this. So what would you tell a lawyer? I mean, why should they believe that you can do this? I guess is what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think number one is we have a proven track record of doing it. And we have, multiple kind of use cases or case studies that we can walk through. We do have active personal injury clients right now that we're working with and that we're helping. Ultimately, if you're a personal injury firm and you're operating in a few different markets and you're doing billboard, TV, radio, digital, you're running, all these different campaigns all at the same time in different markets. It's difficult to understand like what's driving what. And with personal injury, it's an awareness game. You've got to create that awareness. So when somebody does get injured, they call you, they come to your firm. And so, as we've looked at those examples, I think the things I can talk about are, a lot of times it is easy to credit SEO and search with what's driving the demand for your business. But like you said, a lot of the SEO companies that you work with say, hey, when we turn TV on, SEO works better. Well, that's because you're driving more search because you're creating that awareness. But
Right.
how do you ultimately attribute that credit back to TV so you know how much to spend in that area and how much incremental that's going to drive in search? And so that's really what our product does and what our model does is it distributes attribution and credit across the entire mix and isn't dependent on, last touch digital tracking and Google tracking and all of that to understand what's actually driving the case volume for your firm. So that's how I would describe it to a lawyer. And like I said, we have different examples we can walk through. I can walk through a few different examples of clients that we've worked with and what we've been able to do to help them if that would be helpful.
I think it would be. It would be for me.
Yeah. So I think, one example of one of our clients, so we partnered with them about a year ago. And when we run our models, what we do is we look at 2 years of historical data. So we want to look at 2 years of impression, marketing spend data, case counts, all by time and place. So when did the sales happen and where did they happen? Which markets did they occur in? We run that through our analytics and our modeling software, and we provide an output, an attribution output. And in this model, what we found was historically for this personal injury firm, radio was a really good channel for them through our attribution system is what it was telling us. They had recently shut off radio. They didn't have kind of the internal tracking mechanisms to understand how much value was being generated through radio. And so when we looked at that and partnered with their team, our recommendation was they operate in about 5 different markets. So what we said is, hey, let's turn radio on in one of your markets and let's watch what happens in that market. So we executed that test with them. They turned radio on in one of their markets and they saw about a 30% increase in case volume from that market once they turned that channel back on. So our model led to, hey, this radio looks pretty good historically. Let's run a test in a market, generated increases in case volume in that market, and now they can add that back as a part of their mix moving forward. So that's one example of just a case study that we've been able to show the effectiveness of this approach.
So do you ever tell them, hey, you need to get rid of this because it's really not working?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's a lot of times people overinvest in Google because again, Google has a cap. There's only so many search impressions that are being generated for, in this example, personal injury firms or personal injury related keywords.
Right.
But Google will find ways to spend your money. And so, you can keep investing thinking, this is what's really driving demand, but you've got to be able to fill that top of funnel and fill that demand with this other type of advertising like TV, radio, billboard, etc., to make Google more effective over time. And so a lot of times our models come back and they show better attribution for TV, better attribution for connected TV, better attribution for radio, these type of mediums versus what Google is showing. So a lot of times we're saying, hey, let's reinvest some of the dollars you're spending in Google today into these other channels. And Google's still going to capture that demand. You're still set up in a way that you're going to be able to capture that demand that's being generated there. So a lot of times it's shifting budgets around. It's saying, hey, we're going to take some dollars from this channel and we're going to reallocate them into these other areas based on what our models are showing.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me. Yeah, I know the lawyers out there thinking it's probably going to be very expensive.
It's not expensive. Yeah. Again, that's another, compelling part of the product that we're bringing to market is we want to be very price competitive. We want to make it a no-brainer and straightforward for brands and law firms to work with us. So really the way we think about that, Ken, is we think about it in terms of we're going to at least improve your marketing performance by 10%. So if you're spending $5 million a year in advertising, we're saying we're going to get you at least $500,000 in return using our product and our team. And That's through a combination of several different things. That's lowering acquisition costs, that's generating incremental case volume, kind of a combination of both is really what we feel like we can deliver. And so from a pricing standpoint, we're gonna come in and at least we want to generate a 10x return on investment in terms of what you're having to pay us to do this work. So we work individually with each client to understand kind of where they're at, what we think we can get them, and then we work on a price that's going to make sense for both of us.
Yeah, because somebody that's spending $1 million versus somebody that's spending $5 million.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. So we want to make it, like I said, we want to make it a no-brainer, and we want to make sure we're generating great returns with the firms that we're working with.
This is wild, in my opinion, because this is something we need so badly. And the law firms that you've used, all of them been very big spenders, or have some of them been like spending $1 million, $2 million?
Yeah, I mean, we have ones that are spending, a little less than, we have some bigger ones. We have ones that are spending, $15 to $20 million a year in advertising. And we have others that are kind of on the other end of that curve that are maybe 1 to 3 to 4 million in spend. And again, we really, where our product becomes valuable is you've got to have some complexity in what you're doing, right? So you've got to be running in more than just, 1 or 2 channels. And so typically, as law firms kind of get to, the $1 million mark a year, they kind of bump up to 3 to 5. That's just, they're adding more complexity because now I'm doing more and I'm doing a lot of different things. And so that's really where we like to start with, is because we want to make sure we can help, right? And you've got to be, running in several different channels for us to be helpful.
So I would think that for this to work, the data, they got to have good data, or maybe not. I mean, if somebody's not keeping up with anything, does it matter? Or, I mean,
yeah. So what we like, so there's kind of a few different components to it. So from a digital advertising perspective, so if you're running on Google, if you're running on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc., any sort of digital advertising platform, we've built systems to connect directly with those on your behalf to pull the data from those directly. So the only thing the law firm has to do in this instance is authenticate our access to the platform. So very simple, very easy, couple clicks, and then that data flows into our system. On like offline data, so if you're running billboard, if you're running TV or radio, there's different use cases there. Sometimes they're just tracking that information in a spreadsheet. They can send that to us. So if it's spend, by month, by market, that works. If they have kind of some of the TV stations or radio stations, they'll provide you with log files of like when the spots ran, and we can use that if they have access to that. So it depends on that data, just sort of what the firm has and what's available. We've had some firms, like I've said, where it's just been spend by month for the last 2 years by market. That works. And then on, the case side, so their own internal case data, really all we require there is case counts by month, by market. That's what we require. And we can start our analytics and modeling work with that information.
So I'm curious, have you got enough data? Like, what are you seeing for PI lawyers, like, are the top 3 ways to get cases? Because, I mean, you're seeing everything. You're seeing not asking about any in particular law firm, but just overall, you see any trends that some things are working a lot better than others? You said like Google is not, so that tells me then there's probably something that you're seeing that's working better than others.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I mentioned before, those more awareness-based channels are working really well. And the firms know that. That's why they're doing it, right? That's why they run tons of billboard. That's why they run tons of TV. That's why they're doing, CTV and radio and these different things. They understand they need to create awareness. I think what our models have shown is we can attribute direct revenue and case counts and credit to those channels and make sure you're spending at optimal levels in those areas. And so I think that's, I would highlight that as being, a big factor, is those channels really work. And we like to put data behind it, so you're making data-driven decisions in how you're spending money there. Like I mentioned with Google, Google's effective. Don't get me wrong, Google is very effective. My point on Google is they like to take all the credit for any sales that they're generating, but there's a lot of other factors that generate that Google search.
Yeah, and I've got mail from Google advertising, so it tells me that they don't think it's everything. I mean, even direct
Yeah.
mail, and
Yeah.
I've
Direct.
seen them on TV too. So I mean,
Yeah, for sure. So those would be the highlight. The other thing, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but the other thing I would bring up is we bring in non-marketing data to our models as well. So there's things that impact personal injury law firms that aren't related to advertising, right? So some things that we found there, weather patterns, weather trends, we can bring that into the model and we can show kind of direct attribution and direct effect that that's having on the case counts for the firm.
yeah,
We're able to bring in like macroeconomic factors. So if there's things out there that from a macro environment that you don't really have control over, but they're impacting your personal injury firm, we can bring those into the model and show you how much that's impacting your case count. So we like to bring that information in because there are things out there that, you can be very proactive in your advertising, but sometimes there's just natural economic or natural factors that are impacting your demand that are outside of your control.
yeah. I used to love first quarter because I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we would get some ice, some snow, rain. And anytime, I'd see rain, I'd say, or if I saw a storm coming in, I go get on the Weather Channel. I go and I'd bump up my ads because it seems
Yep.
like first quarter were always better for us. And I didn't have what you're doing, but I just thinking, I said,
Yeah,
it's got to be
you knew what's happening. Yeah.
more wrecks. There are more wrecks. I used to joke about it, which I shouldn't have, but I actually like the little rains where it just gets all the oil and dust kind of slippery, not the washouts.
Not the
Because that's
washout.
when you see people are not aware of it as much. And it's really worse than if you had a gully washer, because that's
Yeah.
going to block it all off the road. But if you just sit there and just kind of, the oil and stuff spreads it everywhere and the dirt and everything, it just gets slicker and you're not aware of it. You see a lot more rear ends,
Yeah.
things like that,
Yeah. So we try to quantify that just so as an attorney, as you're running your law firm, you understand and you can quantify the effect that's having on your business. And so we're able to give those insights. We found, another example of that is like tourism. So if you're in a spot that generates a lot of tourism during different parts of the year, that's going to generate more traffic and more accidents, et cetera. So we can quantify things like that. So, it's unique to, the market and the area that the law firm's in, but we're able to partner with them and understand because every attorney knows, like you just said, those factors. And so we just, again, try to help quantify those with data.
Yeah. Good deal. Good deal. I like this. I really
Yeah.
do. But I'm a numbers guy. I always have been. I think you got to know your numbers. You got to know your ROI. And it just seemed like to me, when I was doing this, I was just doing TV, billboards, a little bit of radio, but that was it. I mean, and there was no social media, there was no internet, so I didn't really
Yeah.
it was pretty damn easy, to be honest with you.
Right.
Yeah, we used tracking numbers, so it made it a lot easier too. But digital changed everything, I think, as far as tracking. It just that and social media just. Oh. So I've seen these companies. Have you ever seen these companies that go out or they survey people? They'll go out to markets and say they'll give you what's the top personal injury attorney in your market? This on name awareness, it's the most awareness. Have you ever seen that? I mean,
Yeah. Those are great things to do. I mean, that's just good data to capture and understand. That's just, again, another way to understand all this awareness advertising that you're doing. What type of effect is it having? And, a lot of brands that I've seen that do it effectively, they're doing it kind of on an annual basis, right? So, or even more frequently sometimes, depending on what industry they're in. So then you can start tracking trends against that, which is really cool to see because then you can say, well, last year we were fifth on the list. We invested 10% more in this type of advertising. Okay, do we move up the list by being able to do those type of things? So, we love that kind of data. Any data that's just going to give you more insights and the ability to make better decisions today than you were able to yesterday. I mean, that's really what we love, and we love helping brands with, I love helping PI firms with as well. So
Anything else? Any other case studies you want to share? Or anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think, we're interested in helping a lot of personal injury law firms. We think that, our approach and our modeling can really be a benefit to these attorneys. I've walked through, some of the experience that we've had up to this point in the personal injury space. And ultimately, we want to be helpful and we want to drive, more case volume and better ROI for these firms, which I know they're all looking for. And we really pride ourselves on being a strategic partner. We're not just a software platform. We're not just another product that you're going to have to learn and come up to speed on. Like, we're going to be there with you. We're going to partner with you. We're going to be, committed to driving the results that you're looking to get by working with us. And so I just appreciate the opportunity of being on the podcast with you, Ken, and, would love to help out with anything else you've got going on, and just let me know.
So if somebody wants to get up with you and talk more about, what it would cost in their market or whatever, how can they get up with you, Kirk?
Yeah, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So Kirk Nielson on LinkedIn. You can email me directly, kirk@tapindigital.com. You can go to our website, tapindigital.com, and there's a form on the website. If you submit that form, it comes straight to me so I can follow up with you from there. So I would say those are the three best ways to get in touch with us.
Okay, good deal, man. Well, listen, thank you so much, and it's looking forward to seeing more of you. Okay?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. I appreciate the time, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Till next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.